No matter what your politics are, it feels like Americans can agree on one thing these days. Everything we love is getting worse. From fashion to food, sports, it seems like things just aren't as good as they were growing up. And now this enshittification is coming for one of America's great pastimes, bowling.
Straight down the middle. No hook, no spin, no fuss.
Woo! I'm slamming him tonight. You guys are dead in the water.
In the 90s, a family could spend an entire Saturday night bowling for only $35. Whether it was a birthday party, a date night, or even a competitive league, bowling was one of the few activities that worked for all Americans. Singles, couples, men, women, rich, poor, old, young, they all bowled. I tallied up one night at my closest bowling alley and I was shocked. And despite spending more, we're getting a worse experience.
You notice the price hikes, it's insane.
Price has been always going up. We're talking about inflation.
The corporation, they just didn't care about a lot of little things.
They know nothing about bowling.
This is the story of the little guys who are trying to save bowling and the Wall Street outsiders who are changing it.
I don't think anyone takes bowling seriously. Why would you?
So how do guys like that decide who gets to bowl and who gets left in the gutter?
In order to find out, we're going bowling. I'm here in Los Angeles at my closest bowling center, a Lucky Strike, and there's a good chance that your closest bowling center is also a Lucky Strike. This facility behind me actually opened in 1960 as the AMF Bowling Center, and in 2025 was rebranded as Lucky Strike. I'm taking a few friends of mine who actually bowl to this Lucky Strike for the full Friday night experience.
Lucky Strike has just opened a new bowling alley.
Wauwatosa Bowling Alley has a new look and a new name after 60 years.
Lucky Strike in Ala Moana Center opens tomorrow.
That's not the traditional looking bowling alley.
Despite the name, there's a lot more than just bowling going on there.
It's safe to say this does not look like the bowling we grew up with.
And when you visit an independent lane, the differences are pretty shocking.
Bowling is a big part of my life. I've been in bowling since literally birth. My parents met bowling. My dad was working at the bowling center. My mom was actually going in the back while she was pregnant with me, working on the machine. So it's something I was born to do, I guess. The bowling boom really happened, really after World War II, I'm gonna say. And that's where the commercialization started going in, where you start going away from the 8 and 16 lane centers to the large 32, 48, 60 lane centers.
During its peak in the mid-60s, there were over 12,000 bowling centers in America. Some bowling centers even offered daycare services to get young families involved. At its peak, nearly 10 million Americans were league bowlers. They showed up every week and accounted for the majority of sales at a bowling center.
To get the most possible enjoyment out of your bowling, by all means join a team and bowl in a league. Nothing can top the excitement and satisfaction of competing in team play.
Pro bowling even had 12 million weekly viewers on Saturday afternoons, outdrawing college football.
Every size, age, kind, breed, and class from all walks of life. Every type imaginable. They make the game our country's most popular participating sport.
Today, there are less than 3,200 bowling centers in America. Some of this decline mirrors broader cultural shifts, the rise of home entertainment, and the general collapse of third places in American life.
With property values being what they are, you see the size of the lot that this center's on. They just sell it for the dirt and don't really think of it as this is a community place for your kids to have a place to hang out. That is the biggest enemy to bowling, especially here in Southern California.
As real estate values skyrocket, many independent alleys just couldn't survive.
So they changed who bowling was for.
In 1998, Tom Shannon bought the original Bowlmore lanes in New York City and transformed them into a nightclub atmosphere.
The Bowlmore CEO saw two different versions of America in a bowling alley. The blue-collared regulars who kept the lights on, and the upscale newcomers who'd pay 5 times more for the same lane.
in New York or Orange County, California. It's ironic because you take people who rarely do the sport, right? Think of it as this old man's league activity, and you make it relevant for them, and they love it. I mean, I don't think anyone takes bowling seriously. Why would you?
Tom Shannon didn't take bowling seriously, but for 15 years, the model worked in places like LA and New York, where bowling felt a little bit ironic. But then there was an opportunity to redefine the entire sport. In 2013, AMF Bowling, once the largest bowling chain in the world, filed for bankruptcy. All 270 locations were suddenly available. Shannon bought them all.
The following year, the 150-year-old Brunswick Corporation sold its 85 centers to Bowlero.
Lucky Strike, formerly known as Bowlero, had a CEO that looked out and saw what he said was a rich opportunity.
There are 3,500, give or take, independent bowling centers in this country, and so it's just a tremendous long-term opportunity for us to continue to consolidate.
He set out a plan to slowly but surely roll up basically the entire industry, and got some funding from a bunch of private equity guys on Wall Street to do just that.
We've got 3,500 different independent bowling alley operators in the United States, representing an incredible consolidation opportunity for Bowlero.
And inside those centers, things began to change quickly.
I worked there when it was AMF, and then when they moved it to Bowlero, that's when you notice a lot of the change. It's a big difference. Like, let's do what we can to get the leagues out and what we can to make it more like a party.
Between 2013 and 2015, the company allegedly fired 287 managers. By 2017, more than 50 former employees had filed age discrimination complaints. The people running these centers had no connection to the sport, and bowlers noticed. On the night we filmed at the independent Alhambra Valley Bowl, we spoke with league bowlers who used to bowl at Bowlero centers.
When they got wind that we might move, it was just kind of an email saying, all right, see ya. At Bowlero, we just didn't feel appreciation for our league, for the guaranteed money that we pay every week.
From lane operations to cleanliness, many bowlers started to notice a decline in the overall experience, all while the prices rose.
You get someone who's fresh out of their MBA and says, all right, turn this place around. And they look at numbers, say, oh, well, we're not charging enough. We need to make more here. Well, we make a lot on Saturday night, so we should just do that every day.
We can't afford to charge bowlers, $35 in league fees every week. That's what, $140 a month? It's insane.
When I think of going bowling, whether it's with friends or family, I'm not trying to break the bank to do it, and it felt like you were doing that there.
They just treat it like they just want every dollar out of you when you're there. That's what makes you kind of feel like you're just a walking wallet.
And it's not just league bowlers. Thanks to their dynamic pricing, we really are walking wallets.
Our goal is to fill the centers on the weekends at the highest price we can, and ultimately dynamic pricing allows you to do that.
For 2 hours, it was $49 a person, plus the $7 for shoe rentals. That's $56 per person, and we haven't even opened the menu yet.
They pushed us away with the cost, not just for bowling, but for, the food and drink.
Gotta start with the dunk tank.
Dunk tanks.
A bottle of beer was like $10 there. A pitcher of beer was like $37. It was just going crazy.
Bucket of beer, $40. Not great. There's no discount there. We could have just ordered them individually.
A nacho avalanche, $19.99. Get out of town. And that doesn't even come with meat. $25 for nachos with chicken.
There is no real cheese on them. Give me real cheese. They're bad.
I just feel like if food or concessions are gonna be theme park expensive, as long as it's also really tasty, I'm totally cool with it. But if you're getting gouged and it's not very good, it's just kind of like a double whammy.
The corporate centers are going to do what corporate things do, and this is not unique to bowling, but they're making it work by shifting more to entertainment as opposed to the sport.
They wanted just the party atmosphere.
One thing I will say is that this is like stimulation overload, super loud. There's a lot going on. This is not a relaxing social experience whatsoever.
I've always wanted to bowl and watch Family Guy at the same time.
They don't really know a lot about the sport itself. They just turn the lanes on and they don't really care about what's happening.
You got to know about bowling. So, get out there, bowl some games, talk to the league bowlers. There, they don't do that. It's like watch a 30-minute training video and you're out to the sharks. That's it.
But in all my conversations, there was one thing that fired bowlers up the most.
The thing that we really hate about Lucky Strike and why we try not to come here too often is we hate the strings and the pins. You don't get that satisfying crack when you bowl on these string pins.
When they brought the string pins, our league, we lost a lot of teams, lost a lot of bowlers because of that, because they were turned off.
You're taking away the fun of the game.
And it's not just about aesthetics. String pins change the physics of the game.
The data shows that strike percentages are lower in all entry angles.
A 2021 USBC study revealed that strings had a 10% decrease in strikes.
A delay of play has been initiated. I think the wires are supposed to make it more consistent, but it's only our second frame. Already an issue. I'm gonna have to head over to the desk and get somebody because nobody's coming over.
The house is always dirty. The bathrooms were gross, crumbs and dust.
There's a lot of things you don't have to do when you're just catering to that open play crowd, and they'll pay 3 or 4 times the rate that the league bowler would pay.
Okay, let's tally up our bill from 2 hours of bowling. The lane and shoe package for 4 people was $223. Add just 1 bucket of beer and some under-cheese nachos, and you're looking at about $308 with tax and tip. That's $77 a person. So how does the Lucky Strike model compare to an independent alley like Alhambra Valley Bowl?
We have a happy hour special Monday through Thursday from open to 3 p.m. That is $2 a game, and after that, then it's $5 a game, and on the weekends, it's $6 a game. It is significantly below market. I'd rather have a house full of people paying half price than 3 lanes going and people paying full price. That's just our philosophy. Is the goal for us to take everything that we can from the customers, or is the goal for them to have an experience where they continue to come for 20, 30 years?
But this attitude is becoming increasingly rare in bowling. Wichita, Kansas is one of the strongest bowling markets in the country. When Bowlero acquired 3 centers in a single deal in 2022, it controlled 54% of the market. Within a year, prices were reported to triple. 600 league bowlers quit. In Northern Virginia, Bowlero acquired 8 locations in a single deal. Their market share went from 34% to 95% overnight. The only competition left controlled just 28 lanes. For bowlers in the region, there was nowhere else to go.
Antitrust is supposed to step in around the 30% of a market level. So in some of these markets, we're seeing more than 3 times the level that's supposed to trip the law.
By 2023, Bowlero controlled more than a third of all bowling revenue in America.
Now we have 323 bowling alleys all across the country.
But they didn't just stop at the lanes.
Then they also bought the Professional Bowling Association, which you could think of as more of a vertical relationship.
Who do you think you are? I am!
If Bowlero / Lucky Strike controls the PBA, they end up sending all the cool high-profile PBA events to their bowling alleys, not to rivals. That further weakens the rivals, and now you can roll up even more of them. All of these things together, I think, add up to a pretty damning portrait of what this company has done.
Bowlero pretty much buys up every single bowling alley and pushes out all the mom and pops, and it kind of just makes it where you either go to a Bowlero or you just don't bowl at all.
Now, bowlers are striking back. In May of 2026, a class action lawsuit was filed against Lucky Strike Entertainment, alleging the company used its market dominance to illegally raise prices and destroy competition.
This lawsuit shines a light on something that we have seen in other sectors. It's private equity on Wall Street finding the relatively few sectors that are still made up of mostly independent local businesses and saying, as long as we've got enough money in our pockets, we can buy up this industry, we can control it.
It's not just about Tom Shannon or Lucky Strike, it's about everything getting worse for consumers. And these corporations will continue squeezing until people like these bowlers push back.
It wasn't more than 25 years ago that a family could walk into a bowling alley and spend 30 to 50 bucks for an entire Saturday night. That memory of the sport is fading, only to be replaced with a luxury model that caters to the wealthy. But still, over 60 million Americans visit bowling centers every year, not as ironic nightclubs, but places that build community.
It's like the last bastion of like camaraderie, you know? People hanging out together, having something in common.
Some of our league bowlers have been bowling for like 20, 30 years in this league, you know? It's been around since, I think, 75. We're proud to keep it going.
Once you get into bowling, It's like a whole big old family, you know what I mean?
Bowling is still for everyone. Bowling has always really just been about community and making connections. And I think that is really what we're missing.
We need more bowling alleys like this without no strings. We need more bowling alleys that bring the love.
Each center has character. Each center has its own feel to it, or it used to. We are Alhambra Valley Bowl. And you'll only get this experience here. You're not going to get this everywhere else.
You made it to the end. Thanks for watching. Before you go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Are there other things we should investigate? Let us know in the comments below.
But wait, there's more. If you want to support our journalism so we can create more videos like this one, join our membership program as a paid YouTube subscriber today. You'll get exclusive perks, including invites to member-only live streams with the More Perfect Union team. Thanks.